Welcome back to Second Take, where we talk about reclaiming your health, taking back your power, and rewriting your story. So, I wanted to talk today about the body as a whole and how a lot of times we do not recognize that what we believe are symptoms of illness, of disease, of problems are really just our body's way of speaking to us, of giving us symptoms as a means of speech because it doesn't have any other option. So I was thinking about different ways that this played out in my own life and how those symptoms that I believed were problematic were really just symptoms that my body was sharing things with me, sharing information with me, but that I was misconstruing that information as being a problem. And I think that in our day and age today, when every time you turn on the TV, you see another advertisement for another medication that has a list of side effects a mile long, that it's important to recognize that everything we're hearing from our body is not necessarily a bad thing. So, for me, when I was young, my mother had a disease called systemic lupus erythematosus, and that's an autoimmune disease that she was diagnosed in the early 80s, and I was a child at that time. And I remember hearing the description of lupus as being something that uh, your body was attacking itself. That's how it was described to myself and my sister. That mom's body was attacking her body. Her body was attacking herself, and that was causing her to need these joint replacements. She would have excruciating pain. She would go to the doctor and find out that she actually had avascular necrosis, which is death of the bone, and that joint had basically disintegrated. And then she would have to go and get a joint replacement. And as a child hearing this, the only thing that really stuck in my mind was that your body can attack itself. And I found that horrifying that your body can attack itself to the point where you need to go and get a surgery to replace a joint because your body has disintegrated in some way, shape, or form. So as a little kid, that was pretty darn scary. And I grew up with this belief that our bodies can literally turn against us. So when I started with my own health challenges, any little symptom that would start would send me to the doctor because I believed there was a problem. I believed there was an indication that this symptom was something broader, that I was going to find out that I had a disease or that I was going to find out that my body was attacking itself. And lo and behold, that's exactly what I found out in my early 20s was that I was diagnosed with lupus as well. So, of course, that started off a whole cascade of beliefs because of what I'd grown up with. And as I look back now, and of course, hindsight is always 2020, but now that I do know what I know and I've returned myself to health, I can look back and see that many times what I thought were symptoms were really just messages. And I was misconstruing those messages because of my previously held beliefs. So, an example for you was when I was the state manager in insurance at an insurance company, I would have to go and speak in front of my staff. And at one point, it had grown to over 100 people. And I hate speaking in public. I absolutely hate it, which is really funny that now I'm on YouTube, but whatever. I hate speaking in a public group. I'm one of those people who has an absolute fear of speaking in public. So I would have to get up and do these presentations in front of my entire team. And depending on whether we had a portion of the team or the entire team, could be anywhere from 10 or 15 people to over 100 people. And I couldn't hold anything in my hands. I had to have a podium because I would shake so bad that the paper would shake if I was holding a paper because I was so freaked out. And I remember having so many feelings as I was coming into those discussions and presentations that would start almost a cascade of events in my head. I would start to feel my hands get a little bit clammy, and I would start to feel my heart start to race a little bit, and I might get a little bit sweaty, and I might start breathing a little bit faster. And I noticed those signs and symptoms that I perceived as anxiety. And if I focused on it or tried to really think about those symptoms or tried to calm myself down, it would get worse. Wouldn't get better, it would get worse. So I remember I would always just try and plow ahead, ignore it until I could get through the discussion and get to the other side of it. And now looking back, I realized that what I perceived as anxiety, all of those same symptoms, were really just excitement. Because one of the things that I loved the most about my job was actually building a team environment and having a group of people that would not only get on the same page, but realize a common goal. And in realizing that common goal, they would elevate themselves to higher levels of performance because they all wanted to achieve the same end. And I was excited by that. So even though I had to go and have these discussions, these presentations that I really didn't enjoy, I loved the process and I loved watching what was going to come out on the other side. So really, I was excited about it. I was excited about what was to come, but I was perceiving it as anxiety and building a discussion in my head about how much I hated speaking in front of people. When really, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed what we were going to create together and I enjoyed the process. So that's just one example. Um, there have been so many. There are examples. I had plantar fasciitis for a while. Plantar fasciitis is a symptom for sure. I went to the doctor and of course, and they told me that I could get cortisone injections. Okay. Well, I thought I was going to do that. And then I realized my father had a cortisone injection at some point, and it actually had made his Achilles tendon so brittle that it had then torn almost immediately after that. Within a few months, he actually tore his Achilles. And when he went in for surgery, they told him that one of the contributing factors was the cortisone shots he had been getting. So I didn't take the cortisone injection for my plantar fasciitis, and I went and did some research. And I found out that oftentimes the contributing factor for plantar fasciitis is because your calves are too tight. Interesting. Okay. So I got some exercises and did those exercises to loosen up my calves. And lo and behold, the plantar fasciitis went away. So I didn't really need the cortisone injections. And that was years ago. It's never come back. A couple times it's gotten a little bit tight and I will do the exercises again and then the symptom goes away again. So I say that just to say that there are so many times things that we perceive as being problems in our body that aren't necessarily problems. They're just signs. They're messages. They're being introduced to us in order to have us shift maybe the way we're doing something or pay attention to something. Another example that's coming to mind is headaches. Oftentimes, headaches are really just signs of dehydration, and that's it. Our brain doesn't have any feeling in it. That's why they can go in and do brain surgery with people that are actually cognizant. But there's no feeling, there's no sensation receptors in the brain. So oftentimes when we have a headache, it's really just a sign and a symptom of dehydration. So if we take a pinch of salt and we put that under our tongue or in our mouth and then drink some water, your headache goes away. So it's a sign, it's a message from the body that you need more water. I say this just because I think right now in our society, we have reached the point where everybody's looking for a quick fix. And, anytime I turn on the television, there are a list of drugs, just one after the other, each one with a list of side effects a mile long. Some of them even include death, which is amazing to me that somebody would say, yes, put me on this medication, even though it could kill me. But it's a symptom of what it is that's wrong with our society in many ways. We want an immediate fix. We want something that's going to take away everything and anything that we consider could be a problem, and we want it to happen immediately. We want to take that pill. So part of taking our power back, part of reclaiming our health, part of rewriting our stories to be healthy and whole the way that we want ourselves to be, is to recognize that all of those symptoms may not be anything other than messages. We need to change our perception a bit so that we can allow ourselves the latitude to try to understand, is there actually a message that my body's trying to give me? Now, I think obviously there's a huge spectrum when it comes to symptoms, right? So obviously, if somebody's having symptoms of a heart attack, that's not a time to think, I wonder if I just need some salt. But for the most part, many of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis are not emergent. They're just messages. And if we start to retrain our thought process as to how we perceive those messages, we might become better at understanding what it is that our body really needs to be healthy, and then providing those things that we need so that we can improve our health over time rather than looking for that quick pill, that quick fix. So I think that's something that we can all do a better job at, is really listening to our bodies and trying to figure out what it is that they're trying to tell us. So when we look at taking our power back and trying to understand what it is that can truly help us be healthy, that beginning standpoint is trying to really take a step back from the immediate nature of our desires, what it is that we want immediately, and recognizing instead, what are my ultimate goals? What is it that I want in future? And if you don't want to be the person who's carrying your baggie of medication because there's so many of them that you need to have them in front of the doctor, if you don't want to be that person and you want to be instead somebody who doesn't need medication to be healthy, then I think that's one of the first things that we need to start to recognize, is that our bodies are here to give us messages. That's really that simple. So in time, I'm hoping that this message resonates with some of you, and that you're able to start to play with that when symptoms come up. If you get that little bit of a headache, what is it possible that it's trying to tell you? Did you drink enough water yesterday? Is it that simple? If you have plantar fasciitis pain, do you need to stretch your calves after your daily run or your walk or whatever it is that you do? Or are you exercising at all? Is your body telling you you need to go and exercise? So maybe just taking a step back and starting to think about what things your body could be trying to message to you are important. That could be part of what allows us to move forward and regain power. So I wanted to keep this message somewhat short, but it's just an idea of a different way to start to perceive these symptoms that our body's giving us as messages. And I wanted to thank you for coming on to Second Take again and allowing me to share some thoughts with you. We'll be sharing a lot more as far as how to reclaim and recover your own health. And for those of you who have more significant issues or feel like you don't have time to waste, please check out my bio and look into the offerings that I have as a one-on-one coach. And I'm also dealing with some bioenergetic healing that could be hugely helpful to some of you. So take a look at that if you're so inclined. Otherwise, if you'd like to just follow along with us, we'll be getting into some more specifics in the future. So thanks for joining me. And remember that no one's coming to save us. We need to save ourselves. We have everything we need to do that, and we can do that. So what are you going to do about it? Take care. Hope all is well, and I look forward to seeing you next week.